Good morning to you. We got a rainy day here on the islands. Mr. Merciful. The fence jumpers are all here. Okay. I think the boy is confused. I'm not going to elaborate all fucking morning here. I haven't even eaten breakfast yet. Uh, that's the biggest decision I want to make this morning. You know, when you don't listen to your attorney, it kind of puts you in a bad direction. And the boy don't listen to anybody. That's been the biggest problem with him is that he doesn't go by his lawyer's advice. Basically, what I could share what's going on is that he pleaded guilty against his lawyer's advice. That's what he did. He pleaded guilty against his lawyer's advice, not understanding the ramifications of pleading guilty. That's part of the problem right there. He doesn't listen to his attorney. His attorney still has to file a motion to do any plea bargaining. The attorney's client has to be made understood. The judge is not accepting his guilty plea. As some people would say, why wouldn't a judge accept his guilty plea? I mean, that kind of solves a lot of problems. Not really. It actually creates some. Uh, right away he's thinking I plead guilty and I'm on my way home and all that stuff, and it doesn't work that way. First of all, again, he goes against his attorney's advice. His attorney did not want him to plead guilty, but he came over there. But you see, the judge can't allow that because he doesn't feel that Goober understands what it implies to plead guilty, and there's a process too. So his lawyer has to file a motion to do some plea bargaining. It goes on from there. And at some point, he still wants to plead guilty. He might still be able to, but he can't just out of nowhere and against his attorney's advice plead guilty. And I know he figures that's the easy way out. It may or may not be, but I don't want to go into elaborate detail because I actually can't. I'm just teaching you the basics on here. When you don't listen to your attorney, don't expect to get the results that you want. That's why you're paying your attorney, or somebody's paying it for you. But you got no money, right? So where's the money coming from? Well, we all know. But he thought it upon himself, well, let me plead guilty and get it over with so I could get home. No, it doesn't work that easy. No, judge is not going to accept cannot accept his plea of guilty. Now you would say to myself, oh, great. Let him plead guilty. That works for me. Well, it could. But you have to be, it's just the rules that the judge does not feel that he understands possible ramifications of pleading guilty, and he has to be made aware. And I'm sure, more than sure, that his attorney had told him, no, no, don't plead guilty because of this, because of that, because of this. But as stubborn and as cocky as he is, he went against. That's why there's so much friction between him and his attorney. He doesn't comply with the advice of a professional who works for a living as an attorney. He wants to be his own attorney, then why do you have an attorney? He's not educated enough to understand the ramifications of pleading guilty. Firstly, I don't care either way, but let's see, Mr. Mayor. He pleaded guilty, but the judge won't allow it due to his stupidity. That's pretty much it. Because the judge doesn't feel, from listening to what he had to say, he doesn't feel that he's been advised properly from his own attorney, or maybe he has been advised from his attorney that there are steps you have to take, there are ramifications, there's things you got to think about before you plead guilty. So at least the court is being fair about it. I mean, they're saying that, look, I just can't take his. I mean, it could be easy for the court, but the judge, being very fair, is saying that no, I right now we cannot, not at this moment, we cannot accept the plea of guilty until the attorney's client is made understood of how the legal system works. So when you plead guilty in a case, you have to be understanding of what it implies and what it encompasses. That's fair to say. He just jumped the bat like he normally always does, like with his mouth. You know, the truth is, I'm just so fucking tired of talking about this shit. I should just make a little oath to myself and just say, fuck this shit. Let it go where it's going to go. Let me tell you something. I don't know where this is going to go, but like I said, it's not a contest, but he's already put in about almost 20 months of time. And if worse came to worse in any scenario, and I do mean any scenario, I got the motherfucker off the streets for almost 20 months. I'm okay with the status quo no matter where this case goes. I'm actually okay. But then there's some other things, other things that got to be handled, which will have to be handled. And I think you know what I'm talking about without getting into it. There could be ramifications for that person too. So, but I'm not going to elaborate in that. You know, it's a step-by-step process going on here right now. Obviously, my attorney didn't agree to his attorney's terms or so forth. So if it doesn't get settled in that way, yes, it would be rescheduled for March. I wasn't kidding about that. There is actually a March date. So you'd have to wait till March of the new year to just go on with the case. So if he's not allowed to plead guilty, then okay, it's still going to be a not guilty and he'll have to fight it. It goes on from there. Well, that's a very good question on that. The judge could do whatever he wants, but you can't, all this talk about the Supreme Court and he's been talking about in what cases have been given prison time and so forth. It's really a coin toss on that, really. Okay, either way, if he's guilty of his crimes, the beauty of this is that he'll never be able to come back in his country, no matter what happens with the court trial. The evidence was already seen. We're kind of going to go back on this. The evidence was already seen. Okay, so he's guilty of what he said. It was on screen, and judge ain't going to deny that. Chances are it will lead to a conviction. A conviction doesn't necessarily mean jail time. It could be just a fine. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. I told you it's a coin toss on that. It's whatever the man behind the desk pretty much decides. It's what it really comes down to. And I'm okay either way because I look at it this way. Uh, there's not going to be any way, once deported, whenever that might be, to come back into the country again. Yeah. Mr. Merciful says the girl needs to made an example of. She can't play with your family like this. Well, I agree with you 125% on that. It just opens up another can of worms, and not necessarily for me, but I've discussed that. Oh, I gotta finish my tea. Ugh. Put a little lemon in it. What? What? Are you a light bulb? How many watts are you? Ah? 1,000 watts? Oh, you're 1,000 watts. That takes up too much electricity, 1,000 watts. Guys, I don't really know what to say about this, really. I think a lot of you people are confused, and sometimes I get confused, but I guess I got to read the comments. Merciful says, so come March, best case for Barry is 2 years or detention time served. No, detention time has nothing to do with that. No, they don't. No, his detention time is not time served. Let me get that straightened out. And this is from information that I got from my attorney. It has nothing to do with the price of tea in China. There's an immigration case, and there's a cyber libel case. It just so happens that he had to stay in his cell for this time because he had a case against him. So immigration didn't have a choice but to keep him in there. They don't know where to throw him at this point because he's not convicted yet, so they can't necessarily throw him in Bilidad, whatever the hell it is. That's why he's there. But apparently, I would say that his lawyer tried to point out the do's and don'ts to him, and he just didn't get it. He was just too stupid to understand. So right away, I'm going to plead guilty. I'm going to get this over with. I'm going to go home and have some black-eyed peas. Jerry always with the pick your time, pick your time, pick your time. Could be a chance he doesn't get any time at all. See, I'm honest about this shit. Because, see, I know as much as he does to a certain point. Well, I know more than he does, but in regards to this case. But there are factual things going on here. I can't guarantee my audience he's going to get jail time. As far as I'm concerned, he already did. Maybe not in a horrible place like Bikitan or something, but he's been incarcerated for 20 months, almost 20 months. And it's a win-win for me, no matter what happens on this, to tell you the truth. So wherever it goes, I still win. Now, of course, in regards to his girlfriend's complaint, of course we're working on that. But it's probably in his best interest, as I understand from my attorney, that I won't go too much further into that her case, her complaint gets dropped. Because without giving details, yeah, it is going to open up a few cans of worms possibly for her. And, he loves her, doesn't want to get involved, but he surely did, and he still maintains an attitude that I had nothing to do with it, but he already said that he coerced his girlfriend and others to put a case to have her put a complaint against me. So there you go. That's not ignored. I want to tell you that. That's not an ignored situation. This has been put into writing in several forms with legal paperwork and so forth. It's been put into paper form, even as part of Barry's case, and circumstances and so forth. So it's well known about the harboring, aiding and abetting, and the possible perjury. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself right here. So I'll kind of keep it on track here and just saying that these are the possibilities, very real possibilities. Yeah, I'm sick and tired of talking about this shit myself, I'm going to enjoy my holidays here. Doesn't mean I'm not. Because all this shit's going on. It's still another day to me. I'm not running around pulling my hair out of my head, all frustrated. Oh, by the way, hi, Robert. Make sure he's got his cup of coffee this morning. God, if it wasn't for me, Robert, you'd have no reason to get up in the morning at all. I truly believe that. Turmeric, lemon, black pepper, Twinings. This is the Twinings tea this morning. So if you had to ask me a question, well, if I had to say to you, what do you want to know? I'm telling you basically tidbits, basically, not everything, but tidbits of what I know. That he, the way he runs his mouth all the time, it's the same thing with his lawyer. Right away, against his lawyer's advice, he went to go, I'm pleading guilty, pleading with the judge, I'm a good man, I apologize to the court, oh, please, don't get me going on that. Yeah, I did hear his last show. I guess it was the same as every other fucking show he's ever done. I'd seen the numbers going down. He would get people coming in, oh shit, you mean it's another replay of his last video? Because he says the same thing in his videos every single time. Robert is envious? Oh, I'm sure he is. Well, I'm doing a service for Robert, It gives him a good reason to get up and have a cup of coffee and face the day. What else is he going to do all day? Except simulcast my broadcast. It is pretty sad. I know, you don't have to tell me. It's kind of tart. It's a rainy day in Georgia on my mind. Mr. Birchfield says, actually, Barry sounded more frustrated than usual in his last... He's really frustrated. Because he don't know what the fuck is going on. He thought he was doing good by pleading guilty. And under certain circumstances, maybe so. Well, he knows he's guilty. I mean, the evidence was presented. I mean, he can't fight that. The judge heard him and everybody else did. He was on screen. He knows he's guilty, admitted he's guilty, admitted on here he's guilty, admitted in the courtroom he's guilty. So he's guilty. But he wanted to plead guilty, figuring that it was the easy way out. Bummer, you can't make this stuff up. Right, did you just take a sip of your hater's tears? Yeah, maybe I have. It's a rainy night in Georgia on my mind. One thing good about the South, though, they make some good peaches. You got to give them credit for that. Personally, I like nectarines, I think, better than peaches. I don't know about you guys. Okay, so Mr. Mercer says, judge overturned the guilty plea due to the stupidity of the defense. Yeah, that's pretty much it comes down to. Thank you. In layman's terms, I think that's what, that would be correct. He just wanted to spurt out, I'm guilty. Because he didn't want to listen to his fucking lawyer. He didn't want to listen to anybody. He doesn't want to listen to his views, and every time to have an opinion. Oh, okay, you got to go now. If you're going to have people on your show, Barry, they have the right to offer their opinion. They don't have to agree with you all the time. I got people on here that don't agree with me sometimes. And sometimes I'll at least say, well, why do you say that? Or whatever. Give them at least a little chance. Unless they start really getting ugly, then I'll take them off. But he doesn't give anybody a chance on his show. Of course he's losing supporters and donations and everything else because he's yelling, telling his viewers to fuck off and go fuck yourself and everything else. And, well, yeah, what do you expect? Yeah, so the judge overturned a guilty plea due to the stupidity of the defendant. What the fuck? Yeah, pretty much. In layman's terms, you're right. That's exactly what happened. He does what he normally does. He just spurted out his mouth, whatever he regurgitates, whatever comes out of his mouth. And Jesus Christ, is that belching getting worse? It's obnoxious. Oh, yeah, he's definitely got something going on. He must have GERD, but hey, I got GERD. But I'm not belching. I've had GERD forever. I even have which causes, I have a hiatal. You know what that is up in your chest near your stomach, your esophagus. It's called a hiatal hernia. I've had that forever. I don't burp. I'm not burping. He can't go through maybe 10 minutes without fucking belching. I think he needs an endoscopy is what he needs, but he'll never be able to afford that. If he goes back to America, he will be able to afford it if he's not in jail there too. Medicaid will cover that. He needs an endoscopy. They go down your throat with a camera. It has clippers too, but you go down the throat. I'm supposed to have that done every 3 years because I've got Barrett's esophagus as a result of having hiatal hernia / GERD and that kind of stuff. You got to have an endoscopy every now and again, every couple of 3 years or something. But he definitely has something going on with that he needs to investigate. But that's the least of his problems right now. Okay. Philippines and beyond. I think Robert is giving Barry legal advice in the background. Yeah, he could be. Mr. Merciful says maybe he's burping from all the mold he's breathing in. There's a lot of things that cause burping. If you drink carbonated beverages, yeah, you're going to burp on that more likely. But I think it goes beyond carbonated beverages. This is just too often. In one broadcast, it's like he's burping about maybe 12 times, although I didn't sit there and actually count how many times he's burping. So it's not a legal issue. I'm not worried about his burping, but he's got legal problems and he's got physical problems. And what was he saying about his hand hurts and his arm is thinner than his other arm? It might be something to check into, that's for sure. But I'm sorry, but I don't buy this shit that, he's not in some fucking North Korean prison or something. Come on, that if he had some medical problems, he makes a request. Come on. He's not going to be able to go to the public hospital and have it checked out. I don't buy that. It's only like a 25, 50 peso registration fee. You go there. I went there years ago. That's because I got bit by a cat. I had to go start some rabies vaccination, to make sure, in this case, the cat had rabies. But you can't cure rabies. You get rabies, you die. Simple as that. There's no cure for rabies. But if he's bullshitting, he's always bullshitting, what the fucking believe, oh, my hand hurts, this hurts, that hurts. He hurt his back and all that. And I still say that, I'm sorry, but if you could ride a motorcycle like that and bounce some chick on your, wow, that's coming off, the plastic, holy shit. Just from water?
Yeah.
Seriously? Well, at least we're getting rid of all that stuff on the tile. It's happening slowly, but it, what's wrong with showing what's coming off the floor? Is that a sin? I think it's a good deal that this shit's coming off the floor.
Yes.
Don't worry, I'm not showing you. What is your problem with showing the plastic that's coming off the floor?
Yes.
Is there a problem with
I
that?
told you already before.
I don't know what the problem is. I think it's a great thing that that shit's coming off the floor, personally, without us having to actually strip the floor. I think that's a good deal. Yeah, so every time we mop the floor, remember, it's talking about what happened with when a guy laid down some sheen on the floor, it's to make the tile shiny. But he didn't know what the hell he was doing and didn't have the right chemicals, the right stuff for the floor to give it that glorious shine, that floor shine finish. But, you live and learn. Just deal with a professional. And that's a good key term, professional. You have a professional, you have to listen to their advice. You could always tell your attorney, no, 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 I don't agree with this. That's your right to do that. But sometimes you have to listen to your attorney. The Indian guy's still there? Maybe he's burping from all the mold. Miss Merciful says rumor is Balmer and his Indian roommate are serving each other to help pass the time. I wouldn't know. Brisket and Gravy says, good morning, host. Is this a brisket-friendly stream? It certainly is. I was not welcome to another stream earlier. I know, he's not very inviting. He chases people away. Mr. Merciful says, Balmer's Indian cellmate has already loaned Balmer money on a 5.6 because he's Indian. Right, a 5.6. Okay. Brisket and Gravy says, I liked when he had the poll earlier about people sending her money, for his bail, and nobody voted. Yeah, nobody voted on that. Well, he's losing popularity on his show now because he's just yelling at everybody. And I understand his frustration. You know where I stand with this, guys? Whatever goes down with his case. I'm at the point where I really don't give a shit anymore. Because as far as I'm concerned, I didn't even think it would get that far that he would serve almost 20 months in detention. I mean, that's an accomplishment right there. I don't know what you guys feel about this, but that's the way I feel. So I'm kind of in a situation of thought where whatever goes down the pike goes down the pike. If he gets a slap on the wrist and a fine, that's still fine with me because he's not going to be able to come back into this country once they utilize the summary deportation. Make sense? Yeah. No, honestly, I'm really at that point. I just don't really care where this goes as far as his case is concerned. Because, well enough was served. He's going to be in there a lot more than 20 months because if they can't resolve this, the attorneys fight it out, whatever they got to do, there's going to be a case in March. So he still has to wait till March. That'll be, let's say 20 months is at the 27th of this month. So then you've got January, that'll make 21 months. Then you got February, 22 months. And then into March, which will be 23 months. Okay. So, I don't want to say like who's winning kind of shit, Well, there's nothing set in stone. I don't know where he's coming up with what is he coming up with? 500,000 per count. I got to remember back to my lawyer's original. Yeah, I think that was the original paperwork, if convicted or something. Yeah. But more likely, maybe he's referring, or maybe not, to legal fees. And for some reason, he feels that, and this is with any case, I mean, you have the right, and anybody who's listening to me, if you have a legal case going, that you have the right to demand that your legal fees are paid for. That's very common in a court system. Now, if he can't pay his fines, I'll try to answer that question. Then he probably would remain in some kind of a jail situation until he could pay his fines. That's just common sense. And you see, I'm being very restrictive with what I'm talking about here. I'm giving you all the basics of what goes on in court in situations like this, as I have learned. And it's been a learning process for me, too. A lot of people understand. And even some of this stuff recently I didn't understand. When I was told, basically, that the judge is not going to accept this plea of guilty. And I was thinking, well, why wouldn't he do that? And some of my viewers have asked me, said, well, I don't understand that either. Makes it a lot easier. Okay, get the guy plead guilty. Let's go on from there. But it doesn't work that way because you see, he doesn't want to listen to his lawyer. Just like he blurts out all the defaming and shit that he calls me and everybody else that got him in trouble in the first place, he just blurted out, beginning of the trial, I want to plead guilty. And his lawyer did not want him to plead guilty. Yes, Mr. Merciful, yes. Yes, why shouldn't I? Oh, his excuse is that, his response to that is that, why should I receive anything? I mean, you put the case on me. It's your money you had to spend on your lawyer. That was your choice. Yeah, it was my choice to get a legal case going, but, there's a reason there's a legal case, right? And if I had to come to the point that I had to put a legal case on him because of his cyber libel, that doesn't mean I can't get my legal expenses back if we request it. See, that's up to the judge. Again, it all comes down to the judge. What the judge decides to want to do. Okay? And whether it's something that's favorable for me or it's not, it all comes down to the judge. As you can see, I'm very open about this. I'm not going to sit on here and saying he's going to get 10 years in jail. I'm not saying anything of that sort. He might have a slap on the wrist or he might not. See, it's call it the unknown factor. Because it's unknown to me, it's unknown to him. It's unknown to the lawyers. Yes, it is all up to the judge, what the judge wants to do. Okay, Stefan says, Barry said as soon as the next court date, he's going to ask the judge if he can just get a fine or go home. Yeah, I think that'll work out for him. Well, the judge can't take his request like that. The judge has to make his own decisions. He can't just say, oh, can I just get a fine? Yeah. Can you just get a brain? Just asking for a brain doesn't mean you have one. Or evolution is going to give you a better brain than you have. You were born with the brain you have. It hasn't done you any good in your life so far. Can you imagine living your life like this? I don't know, man. Let's all be real about this. I think you'll all agree with this. All agree with this. All his life, all he's doing is getting into trouble. He admits that he beat up his wife, having to do with the custody of the kid. Then he'll deny it, even though we heard him on a show absolutely saying that. Of course, he denies that now. That never happened. We admitted he did 6 months in prison. Why are they being selective of the people that they're letting into this country? He's got other things going on too. He's got child support, and that is a felony. And the child support doesn't go away. Merciful says, does this mean that you will get to testify possibly at the... Yeah. Well, actually, if they can't sort of come to some conclusions to this matter with... apparently, here's what's going on. Apparently, the judge is not allowed, again, for him to plead guilty because, in layman's terms, he thinks Barry is too goddamn stupid to understand the ramifications of pleading guilty. And you know what? The judge is right. That's a proper statement from the judge. Because everybody needs to be informed of their rights. Everybody needs to be informed of like what you're going to plead and what your plea is going to be, and if there's ramifications that go with your plea. But the guy is so fucking hillbilly ass fucking stupid that he just doesn't understand how the system works. Oops, sorry about that. His stupidity has first of all gotten into trouble, and in all his life, I mean, Jesus Christ, guys, you know this. All his life, he's been getting into trouble. His whole life has been nothing but fucking turmoil. Jeez, even if nothing happened, he's paid the price of his own doings. I mean, all his freaking life. You know, he's just kind of one of these guys that figures, you know, a little bit of sweet talk and whatever, and he can get away with anything. You can get any woman to believe anything he says. He can try to get away with the law. Well, that didn't work for him with the immigration. He thought he can get away with seven fucking years of not paying his fees. Nobody likes having to pay these fees. I don't. Nobody likes that, but that's just, you know, the system. That's how they collect money for the state, for the country. You know, they have to have fees, they have to have taxes. They, like any other country, that's how it's business, and that's how things work. Period. That's how things work. But he thought he was above the law, as he always thinks. That's pretty much how he operates. Above the law. G. Boone. Briskets and Gravy says maybe the judge will instruct the lawyer to make a picture book for his client explaining what a guilty plea means, or a sock puppet show. He might have to actually do that. No. It's kind of on a whole situation, G. Boone. He went and pleaded guilty against the advice of his lawyer, is what happened, without understanding the ramifications of pleading guilty. And I believe that you need to know. Even though I'm in opposition with the guy, if I'm on the other side of the coin, you know, you need to know what happens if you plead guilty or if you plead not guilty. What are the ramifications? What are the ramifications if you actually do so? You have the right to know that. And he did have the right to know. His lawyer desperately tried to tell him that you got to cooperate with me. That's why I'm representing you. You know, I'm trying to help. As a lawyer, they're trying to help you out. That's what they do. That's what you're paying them for. But if you have a client that doesn't listen, how is the attorney going to do his job? Right? Makes sense? You can't have a defiant client. I like that. Someone that doesn't listen to you. Then why did you hire him? If you're not going to listen to the guy, why did you hire the guy? All right. I don't always agree with some of the suggestions my lawyer has, but I'll listen to what he has to say. And if I don't agree with him, I will tell him that. Or he will make me understand something that I don't understand. You know, if I don't understand about my lawyer's way of reasoning having to do with this case, I will try to have him explain to me. I say, look, I don't understand what you mean. Can you explain this to me, and why we would do this and why we wouldn't do this and so forth and all that? You got to have an open communication with your attorney, because if you don't, then what's the purpose of having an attorney? He's getting stoked. Stefan says, did the judge ask Barry if he's consulted with his attorney before feeling this? Well, I think the judge was kind of surprised. And that's what it's all about. That's why the judge is not accepting his guilty plea until there's a protocol to this. My lawyer basically has to wait for his attorney to file a motion to do any plea bargaining. There's a protocol to all this, which wasn't addressed. So that's when he went out and just says, yeah, I plead guilty. I'm sorry. I don't mean any disrespect for the country, and I love the country, and I'm a great person. I would never do anything wrong, Your Honor, Made a fool of himself. But he didn't want to listen to his attorney. It's not that his attorney is not contacting him. I think his attorney is he's just fucking frustrated with him because he doesn't listen to him. That's why you have an attorney. Right, Robert? I listen to what my attorney has to say. It doesn't mean that I agree with him all the time. I have the right to say to my attorney, no, I don't agree with you on this. I think we should do this. I think we should do that. Yeah, I have the right to do that. I'm paying him. It's not free service, But, nevertheless, well, either way, the case is not going to be dismissed, period. I will not dismiss the case. No matter what's going on with his girlfriend, I will not dismiss the case. And he's wrong when he said on his last show that if I got deported, that's the end of the case and he goes home. No. Let me straighten that out. The case still goes on as long as my lawyer is being paid for his service. He can still represent me if I'm in a different country because the case is still active, the case is still going on. It's also the Republic against him too, understand that too. I'm a private complainant, but it's still, he broke Republican laws, so it's still the Republican of the Philippines against him. It still goes on, just like with Ricky. Ricky still got a case going on, even though Fazio passed away. There's still shit going on with that. It's not resolved yet. That's not resolved yet. And as far as fines and stuff like that, let's see. Briskets and Gravy says, has the judge asked him if he is afflicted by mental retardation? I don't know what the judge is thinking. G. Boone says if he has a Pinoy attorney, he knows the law. The problem is he won't STFU. I'm not sure what that means, but no, he just doesn't like to listen to anyone's advice. He already says he doesn't like authority. He made that very clear that he does not like authority because he's been in trouble before with the law, whether it was actually criminal, everything from criminal vehicular offenses, which he had. They were criminal in nature. The exact details of that I don't know, but they were criminal in nature. And whether he was going to prison for 6 months for striking his wife, having to do with the situation with his boy. He's got a lot of things going on. Oh yeah, he's going to make this national. Oh, when I get home, I'm going to make this national. He's going to make this national. Really? You call me a fucking child predator, and you think you're in the right to do that. And then you're going to go national and say, it's not fair. Well, not everything is fair in life. There's a lot of unfair things that have happened to me. You just handle it. Well, the one thing I will say is that, no, this case will never be dismissed. It'll be the judge's decision what he wants to do with it at the end of all this. That's it. Pretty much. Oh, I gotta get my reheated tea. Well, looks like the sun has come out. Here comes the sun. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun. Yeah, getting Rafi Tufo, getting maybe the British authorities involved too, setting a precedent, a big legal precedent somewhere. Where'd you get all the money to do all this? Rafi Tufo don't want to get involved in bullshit like this. Rafi Tufo is going to say, well, what was evidence presented? Did it show you were guilty? Well, it certainly did. Rafi Tufo. That's funny. That's actually really funny. Oh yeah, my girlfriend's up there and she's trying to get meetings with him and Rafi Tufo. How about the British Parliament? Why don't we get the British Parliament in here on this too? Why don't we get the United Nations in on this too? They don't give a fuck. You wonder, Stefan says, I wonder if Donald Trump tweeted him back. Did he try to tweet Donald Trump? Would that surprise me? No. Look, when you're desperate, you're desperate. If you don't want to do the time, don't do the crime, okay? But like I said, no matter where this turns out, I'm not losing anything really with his case, you know. Shit, as I said, it'd be 20 months on the 27th, I think. Then you go into January, it makes 21 months. You go into February, 22 months. You go into March, does that make it 24 months? Because basically, what I've been told is that, I guess he wasn't listening during the court hearing, is that if this is not resolved in some way or form, it just goes back to normal. It just goes back to, continuing the trial. And the next date, I don't know what date it is. It's in March. But it's in March. It's just going to go back into March. And then, the next hearing could be April or May. And the next hearing could be June or July. And the clock is ticking, the clock is ticking, the clock is ticking. And meanwhile, he has to stay where he is. And, to me, in some sense, that's punishment enough. You know what I mean? But I can't get beyond, I just can't get beyond this, really. I mean, there's no reason for me to be, generous with him in any way. Because of the fact that he just continues the same shit all the time on his show. I mean, how could you feel... And I've said this so many times, and I think you understand that. When you're nice to somebody, there's always a chance somebody's going to be nice back to you in some form or way, whether it be very little or a lot. But when you continue, you want your freedom, you want somebody to cooperate with you and say, hey, give me a break, I just want out of here, I want to go home. Okay, understand that. But on the same note, on the same breath, he's trying to say, well, let's just end this, I'll go back and blah, 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 but then he starts calling me names again. So why in the world would I, dig deep into my heart and feel compassion for somebody who just doesn't have the tools to shut his mouth? Stefan says, it was amazing how he made that trip over to the Philippines with no money, survived all those years, got wrapped up in a situation with you and completely destroyed his life. Well, his life was destroyed before that. That's why he was leaving the country. He had, it's a child support situation, one of them, and there's also bench warrants. Biscuits and Gravy says he's probably writing a letter on toilet paper to Judge Judy as we speak. Stefan says, did you have a bad feeling when you met him in person? Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, he was throwing his cigarette butts in the yard. He was... I just immediately seen that he was not a class of person that I, really wanted to get to know. He said, oh, he was seeking friendship, which is bullshit. He just wanted to further his channel by saying that he got together and on camera with the great My Philippines Interest man, and that's all it was, to promote his channel. That's all it was. He was not trying to be friends with me. No, when I found out all the things he did to people and all that, I had made my decision a long time ago, and all the people he ripped off, and and he just still maintains that same statements that he's never done wrong to anybody, when we all know that's all bullshit. He's done wrong to a lot of people. Like I said, if you had to get everybody together in some kind of a concert hall, there would be a lot of people in there. There would be probably hundreds of people that he has done some kind of wrong to. It's like the Seinfeld episode. You remember how they ended it? And everybody from Babu to the soup Nazi and everybody else all showed up in the courtroom. These were all people that had been scorned in some way by Jerry and his crew, and they all showed up. Everyone that they've done damage to was all there in that courtroom. I think it was a sucky episode, but I think it was a good episode because all the characters that were featured in Seinfeld's show were all in that show. From every show they did, and everybody that Jerry and Elaine and everybody downed or did wrong to and made fun of and everything, they were all in that courtroom. That part of it I thought was great. Brisket and Gravy says, Frisbee is like a hurricane, leaving a trail of destruction wherever he passes through. Well, that's a true statement. Hope Virgie is at Barry's sentencing. No, he just wasn't a class of person I want to be with. It's just, it was knowing. It was just knowing. And then it furthered more, like when he came over another time and he was with this, I don't know, she's in her 40s, she's worked in a laundromat, and how he was just kind of using her, and we stayed over at, he stayed over at the, what do you call, resort, and, we had some lunch or something there, whatever. He wasn't even buying her anything. She was paying for everything. She was paying for the room, she was paying for food, and she was like really desperate. She pretty much said that to me and Gilda. She's been abused, and she figures, well, men are just abusive. So what's the difference if he's abusive to me? I'm still getting attention from him. It was sad. It was a sad case with her, but this goes on with many, many women. Yeah. I don't know. He feels that he shouldn't have to pay me anything. First of all, I didn't call myself what he called me. He did it publicly, period. And yes, I had to get an attorney because of that. I have the right to get back my attorney fees, or some portion of it anyway. And whatever the judge wants to impose as a fine or conviction, whatever the judge wants to do. I'm good with whatever the judge wants to do. To be honest with you, whatever the hell he wants to do. Because as far as I'm concerned, seriously, I made my point. He's got to understand that although, yes, you do have the rights, there's a certain amount of rights you do have to exercise a certain amount of freedom of speech. Even in this country, yes, you do have a certain amount of freedom of speech. But like this country or any other country, it's limited. I always use that statement about you can't run in an auditorium and yell fire when there's not a fire, because people can get hurt. There'll be the cattle stampede. People go into panic mode. You've caused a real major problem. So you can't go around calling an innocent man. I mean, if I did that, I'd be in some big-ass trouble, where you have a daily broadcast of every single fucking day for 4 years, whatever it's been, calling somebody countless names. saying I have erectile dysfunction. I don't know. Have you been in my bedroom? How do you know if I have erectile dysfunction? How do you know if I have a small dick? You want to prove it? Where's the video? He thinks he can just get away with anything he wants to get away with it. And he's been like that all his life. But as far as like the freedom of speech situation, you do have freedom of speech, but to a certain degree. And he just doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand it. And I gathered that he probably never will. Because the man, and I'll say this because he's exhibited this. He's not a very intelligent man, obviously. I think everybody can agree with that. He's the guy that blurts out stuff before he thinks about saying it. And that's gotten him in trouble all his life. He's a jailbird. He spent a half a year in the States in a prison for assaulting his wife over the kid, a custody issue. Who was going to live with who? That's what happened. He even said it on a show with Al and whoever it was. I remember he was on a show and he admitted. They asked him, okay, he goes, I'll tell you what happened. He goes, blah, blah, blah. And he told the story. Yeah, I did hit my wife, but she really pissed me off. And I can imagine that, if he's in some permanent kind of relationship with some woman, that who's to say it's not going to happen again? That she says something out of line or something and he'll assault her. Would you want to be a woman in that relationship knowing that he has the capability of doing that to another woman? He said, I'd never touch my girlfriend. I'd never harm my girlfriend. Well, we don't know that, and she doesn't know that either. But if she knows his history, I would be on guard. I would definitely be on guard. That's something to worry about. He claims Shaw's sister went to Manila to meet with Rafi Tulfo. Where's that going to get him? Rafi Tulfo. Oh, boy. Why does he just admit he's wrong, which he did, and just kind of stick with it and move on with his fucking life? If he has to spend a little bit of time in jail or something, get it over with, and the sooner you do that, the sooner you'll get back home. It doesn't have to be that complicated. But in the interim, it's the stupidest thing in the world, in the interim, that he's continuing to do shows. And it does amaze me that he's still able to use his phone. But you notice that when he's doing his shows, later at night when the guards are probably sleeping, yeah, I'm sure he's been scolded about this, but he just doesn't listen to anybody. He don't listen to the guards. He doesn't listen to his attorney. He thinks he's right all the time when he knows he's wrong. That's why you got an attorney, dude. Look, as I said, I don't agree everything with my attorney. And if I don't agree with him, I will converse with him and say, well, no, I don't agree with you on this, but I'll agree with you on that. That's what you're paying him for. They're trying to help me out, and I realize that. And I'm not a professional lawyer, so I have to respect, or at least address or be open to their opinion on something related to this case. I have to have an open mind. Maybe he's right. Maybe this is the best way to do it. Now, is it a good thing or bad thing that he pleaded guilty? Well, it's really according to how you look at this. But right now, the only thing I know, it's a little deeper than what I'm telling you, but his stupidity got him to plead guilty. He went against his lawyer's wishes, okay? Let's just sum it up. And because He did that against the advice of his own attorney. Yeah, sometimes you have to listen to your attorney. So he basically went against the advice of his attorney. He just blurted it out. I plead guilty, and his lawyer did not want him to plead guilty. So now his lawyer's going to have to file a motion to do some plea bargaining. My understanding, anyway. And I could be a little bit wrong on that, but I think I'm probably right. Then at some point, it's up to the judge to say, okay, I'll accept you went through some bargaining, it didn't work. And is your client fully aware? And this is the main thing. Listen up. Is your client fully aware of the ramifications of pleading guilty? Because apparently he doesn't understand the ramifications of such. That's what this is all about. And that's why the judge could not say, okay, I'll accept your plea of guilty. So when he came on, it was not an instantaneous, okay, to the court that I'm pleading guilty. The judge already knows he's guilty. I mean, he's seen the evidence. But there is a certain format that you have to follow in legal cases. And by all rights, Barry has to be informed, which the lawyer tried, to make him understand. I don't know what I'm eating this morning here. I don't know.
You ate YouTube.
I eat YouTube. Yeah. No, that's not going to fill my belly up. And it is fair. It is fair. He has to know his rights. But he has to listen to the dude. He has to listen to the lawyer, man. He has to know his rights. He did something I think that was awfully stupid by pleading guilty. And you're probably saying, well, gee, Frank, who wants to argue with that? Why are you going to argue with that? I'm not arguing with that. As far as him pleading guilty, he already knows he's guilty. The judge already knows that. But you have to still follow the law, the protocol of law. He has to be made understood that you can't go out against your lawyer's wishes and plead guilty unless you understand. And it's hard to get him to understand anything because the guy is so loopy. Okay, let's see. I'm sorry, I haven't been reading the comments here. Stefan says, look what Dimple said. Whenever she had money, Barry wanted cigarettes, booze, and food. Yeah. Mr. Merciful says he claims Shaw's sister went to Manila to meet with Rafi Tolfo. Briskets and Gravy says, I doubt he would survive 1 month in a real jail with that mouth and attitude. I do feel he deserves jail time. To see what a real prison's like, not that, resort that he's staying in right now. And believe me, it's a resort compared to Billy Dad or Bikiton. That's a resort. He wouldn't do very well in a prison, but I do believe that he does need to have some time served. I don't care how much. I don't care if it's a month or 6 months. I don't care about the amount of time. As long as he winds up in a prison somewhere, and if it's decided that he won't go to prison, and if the court decides to slap him on his wrist and give him a small fine, well, let's look at the big picture. If he's guilty of this crime, he will never be able to come back into the Philippines the rest of his life. So what's that worth? It's worth a lot. He can't make it in the United States. He could barely make it here in the Philippines. So imagine having to go back to the United States. Well, he'd have a choice at one point. He'd have to be deposited back in the U.S. And then if he has the money, he can fly over, if he's allowed to, fly over to another Asian country, and he can have his girlfriend meet back and forth. And you can do that. I can do that too if I was deported. You got the right to do that. Will he have the money to do that? And he said he'll just get a job. Well, wait a minute. Get a job? He keeps on saying that he's disabled. How's he going to work a job if he's disabled? But he spends a lot of time on a computer. He can do a desk job. He loves computers. He's very familiar with computers. So get a desk job. Put the boy to work. DT24. What prison would be good to? I don't know. Maybe that Billy Dad thing or whatever. There's another one in Cebu. But either way, it's not going to be a resort. I'll tell you that. Now, I do feel he deserves jail time. He'll say, "What? Go to prison for calling you a name?" He still doesn't understand it, folks. Right, Robert? He still doesn't understand it. Yes, you got freedoms. You know, we have right to free speech to a certain degree. I can't walk up to somebody at their job in front of all his associates at work and say, "This man raped a woman," or something like that. Oh my God. The ramifications of doing something like that, ruining this guy's career and everything else. Well, there's nothing going on with rape here, but I'm making a point. Same thing with the auditorium. You can't run in there and yell fire when there's no fire. And that's, what he did. Yeah, freedom of speech is a very precious thing. And we all have the right to a certain degree of it. But when it's your freedom of speech that you call it, it's going to put harm in some way. He kept on saying, "Well, what damage did I do to Frank?" I can't believe he's even saying that. What damage? There are people that come to his channel that don't know me and don't know any better, thinking that I'm some child predator. That's not damage. The ramifications of that, you get some crazy that thinks I'm a fucking child molester and burns down my house or something. He says, "What damages?" Oh, you're not a business, you're not a politician. Has nothing to do with that. He could get a job as a 911 operator. 9 burp 1. Burp what what burp is burp and burp emergency burp. He's got a problem with that. It's becoming more excessive. Have you noticed that? Or is it just my imagination? It's imagination. Look, I'll handle whatever comes upon me. If his girlfriend manages to get me deported, you know something? Well, I don't think that's going to happen, first of all, but let's just say I'll deal with it. But as I said, there are two options to fighting that. And that could take a long time to come to any conclusion. Of course, I'm not going to sit back and let that happen. You out of your monkey-ass mind. If he thinks I'm going to sit back on something like that shit, that's some pretty heavy-duty shit. I never involve my girlfriend in anything. Oh, the hell you don't. She was involved the minute she met you. I don't know what you put in her head, but she believes everything you say. I don't know. It's not always a rainbow in the horizon. You just can't put frivolous charges on somebody. And he says that my charges on him are frivolous. How are they frivolous? I mean, now that we got to the point that, you saw I had evidence, and what you said, and everybody heard, including the judge, including the fiscal, and your lawyer. How is this a frivolous charge? You either did something or you didn't do it. If you have to narrow it down to something, you either did this or you didn't do this. And you apparently did do this. So what's your rebuttal on that? You could get a job at 911. Okay, I read that one. So if anybody else has an opinion on here before I get off this thing, I need to find something to eat here, that's for sure. Speak your mind. You know, I'm really at this point, will be satisfied in either direction on this case because it's a win-win for me no matter what. He's serving time off the streets. That's a win. All right. And, the judge is going to see that he's guilty. The evidence is already presented. He is not going to be able to come back in this country ever again. That solves that problem. That's a win to me. Even if I don't get my way, even if I don't get him to do a little bit of prison time, it doesn't mean that he won't. And yes, it is true also from what I read that the chances are kind of on the lower side. He may get like 6 months and 1 day. That's always a typical thing. It could be on each count, and that still adds up several years. He could. Or the proverbial slap on the wrist and a 40,000 peso fine, or maybe $1.5 million, which is their maximum, $1.5 million. Okay, I can't predict the future. I wish I had the ability to do that. Well, maybe I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to know when the date of my own death is or anything like that, but I'm not going to try to figure out how the judge is thinking. I don't have the ability to do that. I'm not going to pretend that I do. Whatever the judge decides, I'm good with that. I'm actually good with that. That's fine. We'll end this thing one way or the other. But as I said, no matter what direction it takes, he still had to spend all this time incarcerated, and that works for me. It works very well for me. It has worked very well for me. He's the one that got himself in that. He can't bitch, and he's bitching about it. Why am I here? I'm only here because of immigration. No, you're not. You're still in that cell because, as he says, because, with his southern accent, because you have 5 actual charges against you for cyber libel. Have you figured that out yet, Goober? Have you figured that out yet? Why you're still there? Have we got that clear yet? How dense are you? You are really dense. You really are. Because I called them a bad word. It hurts your feelings. How many times have we heard that? Oy vey is right. Oy vey. So whatever the judge decides is fine with me. Because I've already accomplished something already, which nobody's been able to accomplish so far. When that ends, it ends with me here on this show. That's it. When that's done, I'm done. And anything else that happens in the interim, I will handle it. That's all I can say on that. Okay, what do we got? Yeah, get a job as a 911 operator. Yeah, that would be funny. I don't know who's going to hire that goober anyway. But then again, he said he has a disability. How's it going to work if he has a disability unless it's a desk job? And can you see him doing a desk job? Well, he spends enough time on his computer. I think he could accomplish that. Maybe he could try to teach English once he learns English. Okay. Anyway, guys, I got to get off. Appreciate you coming by this morning show of mine. Oh, I didn't do 2 hours. It's only an hour. Oh, my God. Only an hour and 17 minutes. Oh, God. I'm sorry I deprived you folks. Robert wanted a little bit more than that, but then again, he gets a little frustrated. Right, Robert? Anyway, how's your morning going, or your night going there, Robert? Let's have another cup of coffee. Throw a little gin into that coffee, right, Robert? What's going on with Nico? Well, you guys have never met. Nico's the son Robert never had, and Robert is the father that Nico never had. But the man is certainly concerned with his grass. But the last time I saw a show of his, and I really haven't been keeping up with Nico, his grass looks like shit. How much did he spend on his grass? It's looking like shit. Oh, there's Princess Anne again. She just came here to bump up for me. Well, thank you, Princess Anne. How's life going for you? Brisket and Gravy says maybe he could be a dance instructor after learning how to dance in Bikini. Did you see that video? He's in the bar, and I don't know which bar this was. The dude was in some plaid pajama bottoms. You saw that, didn't you guys? He's over there with his hand out doing a dance move, and he's drunk as shit. And he's wearing pajama bottoms in a bar. Oh, that's going to attract a woman. All right, good for you there, Princess Anne. Right on. Life goes on. Let it go on in a positive way. You take care. And, I could sit here and do a 5-hour show and just come up with every single little dumb thing that he's ever fucking done that's been made known in public. That probably would take a 5-hour show. But I think everybody's pretty much aware. And I noticed another thing too. It's not that I never noticed this before, but it's common on his shows. There could be a 10-minute stretch of dead air. He don't know what the hell to say. He's trying to think, and when he can't think of what to say, he goes right back to the other thing. I shouldn't be here. He's an asshole. He's a dumb fuck. He don't know what to say on his show. It's not a show. It's a show of stupidity is what it is, but it's not a show. Oh, we got 11 thumbs up. That's pretty good for my show. Yeah, I am, kind of burnt out talking about this. And yeah, Gilda don't like me and going back on YouTube and shit, but she knows it's coming to an end. She knows it is. I'm waiting till this case is over. But, shit, I was off for a couple of weeks, which proves that I have the ability to stay off YouTube. I wasn't pulling out my hair not being on YouTube. I wasn't banned from YouTube. I didn't get striked out. It was nothing like that. I chose not to be on for a couple of weeks. Which means I have the ability to be off YouTube and stay off YouTube if that's my goal, and it is my goal. That's going to be happening. It's just going to get this shit over with. And as I said, I've already accomplished, I want to make this abundantly clear, I've already accomplished pretty much something that just made me very, very happy. To see him face up to what he did. To spend the amount of time incarcerated that he has so far, and apparently more to come. So if this goes back to a regular trial, it's still a trial. But, let's say overseeing whatever's going to happen with any plea bargaining or any shit like that. If this goes straight back to a trial in March, and it is March, by the way, Goober, you could ask your lawyer if he ever decides to talk to you because he doesn't like talking to you. We'll see you back in March. And the longer the trial goes on, you'll still be incarcerated, and This could go on for another year, 2 years, 3 years. Who the fuck knows? I win no matter what. Even if the judge gives you a slap on the fucking wrist, I already won. Even if I got deported, I won. You know, I don't think it's likely to happen, but I have an open mind about that. See, I'm very honest. Anything could happen. But I think we put in enough evidence to kind of quash her complaint. And if not, as I said, there's still a couple of avenues to take on this. It's not over till it's over. And not necessarily waiting for the fat lady to sing. Brisket and Gravy says he is desperate for people to talk to him, but 90+% of his viewers are banned. Well, yeah, how are you going to have an audience, a participating audience, if you're banning everybody who tries, even some people trying to be helpful to him, to give him some advice? He doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to hear the truth about himself, because a lot of these people who make comments are speaking the truth. And he doesn't want to hear it, so he bans them. He bans them. This is a man that cannot look in the mirror and understand what he's looking at and understand what he's done in his life. He doesn't want to face his own reality. And I think he's been that way all his life. The reality of where he is in life, why he hasn't gotten anywhere in life, why he had to run away from the USA to come to the Philippines, and how he destroyed people's lives from the first time his feet has touched Philippine soil. Good day.